next in our series of 365. For anybody who hasn't been to any of the priors yet, Rafe Johnson with My 365 is here on the call. He'll be presenting sensitivity labels within 365 and some other goodies as well. And let's get started. Rafe, why don't you say hello, and I'll let you take over.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Matt. Glad to be here again. Thank you for having me back. Today's topic is what I like to call not your father's Microsoft, and or not your mother's Microsoft, whoever you want to call it. And the reason why I like going through this topic is the Microsoft products that you've been probably using for the past 10 years, for example, like Outlook, Word. Microsoft has been constantly trying to reiterate on these applications, make them more useful, really give them a lot more features that can really boost your day-to-day productivity. Today, we're going to go through and start with Outlook. We're then going to look at tasks within Outlook, as well as even go over to tools like bookings and then Planner from there. So as we're going through today, if you have any questions, save them for the end. Feel free to write in the chat, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Without further ado, let me go ahead and share my screen. And I'm going to use the wonderful presenter mode within Teams, which is another fun feature that we're not necessarily going to cover today, but you do get to see it in action. So let me start, and this screen that you're seeing here should look pretty familiar to you, or hopefully it does. What we're looking at here is going to your Outlook desktop, which is probably a tool that you open every single day. And all I did is create a brand new email. You may notice that on the top banner bar here with new icons, new features, most of the time you've probably just looked past it, you've wrote your email, and then you sent it out and waited for the response. Well, today I want to show you some new features and some really cool functionalities that you can use within Outlook Desktop that you may have not noticed before. The first thing that I want to start with is going to be this wonderful button here that almost looks like a stamp on a paper, and this is called sensitivity. In the past, within your organization, when you wanted to send an encrypted email, whether that had personal identifiable information, or you just wanted to make sure that it wasn't intercepted on the way to its destination, generally you had to write encrypted in the subject line, or you had to click on the lock symbol called encrypt. Well, in today's Microsoft, what they've actually done is put in this wonderful tool called sensitivity labels. You're not going to see these sensitivity labels until they're built, until they're created in your Microsoft tenant. But once they're there, they're really easy to use. So if I wanted to just send out a normal email saying, hey, do you want to go to lunch with me today? Most likely, I would just keep the default sensitivity label here called public. When I hover over it, it tells you use when handling non-sensitive information. Me inviting somebody else out for lunch, it's not sensitive. I don't care if somebody sees it or if they forward it on. So I can just choose the public here. If, for example, I wanted to send out an email that is only going to that end person, I want them to be able to verify that it's them reading it. So whether that's putting in their Gmail email, their password, getting a one-time passcode to get in, that's what this private is going to do. And it will encrypt the email as well to meet any compliance requirements that you might have. So for example, if you are HIPAA compliant, if you are NIST, if you're really getting up there with government contracting even, having these sensitivity labels will meet the email encryption requirements, and you know that only that person can then go ahead and open it. When I choose private, it lets me know that this is the one that I chose. It gives me information on that label as well. So I know it is encrypted, and I know that the end receiver has to log in with their account in order to even see the email. If I wanted to be even more restrictive, what I could actually do is drop down and say, let's make it protect read only. What this means is the person still has to log into their account to prove that it's them to see the email. But on top of that, they can't screenshot it, they can't save it, they can't download it. They can only really read it. So you know that the information you're sending out is protected, will stay with only that person you send it to, and it is secure. Now, I've tried to screenshot it. I've tried to see if there's any way that I could get around this, to try and find a way to forward it on. And I will tell you, the email, once it's with this label, once it's sent out, you can be rest assured knowing that that information is staying within the eyes of the person that's supposed to see it. And there really isn't too much else that you need to worry about it. On top of that, in the description, it tells you that the users cannot print, forward, download, screenshot, and it's still encrypted. So you do want to use this one sparingly because it is really locking it down so much, but it's a great tool, especially if you have Microsoft licensing like Business Premium, for example. If you have some of those advanced security license, sensitivity labels are included with that. So it really just is the process of building them, and we can create custom ones as well. So if, for example, having private, protect, read only doesn't make much sense to you or your users within your organization, we can rename them, we can add new descriptions to them. Very much like everything else in Microsoft, it can be highly customizable for you and your organization. That's sensitivity labels. First step, first path here today, email encryption. It's in your Outlook desktop, it's in Outlook Online. Everywhere that you go to with your Microsoft email, you can now use it once it's been properly implemented. Another application that I wanted to briefly talk about is the new meeting poll, or what used to be known as Find Time. Now, Find Time is a really powerful tool, and I really don't think that it's used as much as it should be. I think we've all been there before where you sent out an email saying, are you available on these days next week at these times? By the time that that person responds with the availability that they have, your calendar may already be booked. You may have something else going on there. And then now you're sending another email out saying, sorry, are you available at another time? So that back and forth, the waiting for those emails to come into your inbox, send it out, really is not conducive to a workflow process that is really streamlined. So Find Time is where the solution comes into play. So by creating a new meeting poll, for example, I can put in someone's email here. And let me just go ahead and find another person on my team, David. And because he's in my organization, because he's in my Microsoft tenant, it automatically shows me their availability. So I know that the earliest time I could meet with David, in this case, is tomorrow. Otherwise, you can even add in external emails. So let me go ahead and add in my Gmail, which I know, gasp, I'm a Microsoft fanboy, but I do have a Gmail for testing. Let me go ahead and add that in here. And now I'm adding in another person. Because that person is outside of your organization, it will show up as gray because you don't have availability to their calendar. But that being said, you can choose times that work for you. You can choose 5 times, you can choose 10 times that are available in the next week. Once you send it out using Find Time, it will ask the end users to select the best time for them, whether they prefer it, whether they're available. And once you create this Find Time poll, it actually blocks off those times on your calendar to make sure that they're not overridden. So you don't have to worry about getting the responses back and saying, I'm no longer free. It will do a little temporary placeholder on your calendar. Once you choose the right time, it'll give you that Teams meeting. It will put it on your calendar, and it will automatically delete all of those placeholders as well.
Just for reference, what's the purple?
The purple, if we were just to go ahead and
Tentative.
go over
Okay.
it, is tentative. Yep, and that's for myself because it also lets you know when you're available, when you're free. Yep, and in this case, because I put myself in the 2 line, it is required, or I'm creating it, so I'm required to be there. So that's why it's adding me in here as well. And if you hover over it, the red just means that they are busy. The green means that they're available at the time. I'll just go through that again. Is you're only going to see the calendar if they're within your Microsoft tenant. If you send it to someone else, that's a Gmail, Yahoo, AOL, any one of those emails under the sun, you're going to get the gray, but choose 5 times, choose 6 times. I'm sure they'll be able to answer that poll. Once you get those responses, choose your time, and it's booked.
And Rave, how do you add the Find Time feature into the Outlook ribbon?
Yeah, so Find Time should already be in your ribbon, especially if you're using the Outlook desktop version. Otherwise, there are ways that we can jump onto your device if you don't see it, and then we can just add it as an app. Now, my Outlook, for some reason on my demo, doesn't want to be working too well. I'm getting a not responding, but it is quite easy. You should see it in there by default. Otherwise, we can go ahead and add it in as an app. And this is a Microsoft product. It's in there, built into Outlook Desktop. So you really don't need to go through any other customization other than having a licensed Microsoft account, having an email inbox, and the Outlook Desktop. I'll throw in there that if you are going to be using some of these tools, we want to make sure that your Outlook desktop app, your Office applications are updated to the latest version. That's something that we can help with. That's something that we can put on automatic updates as well. But just note, we will want to make sure that you're on the latest version for it. All right. The second part that I wanted to bring in here within Outlook is a new feature, rather new within the Microsoft world, and it's another way to go ahead and automatically schedule meetings without using Find Time. And that's actually going to be called Cortana Scheduler. If you're a big fan of Microsoft, maybe if you've played video games in the past, you know that Cortana is actually artificial intelligence that was built into the Halo games. Well, Microsoft owns Halo, so they co-opted Cortana as a brand and now brought it into Office, brought it into your Outlook. So if we give you the license to Cortana to use that scheduler, what I can do is rather than clicking on new meeting poll, putting in the emails, choosing my times, hoping that they're going to respond to that poll, all I need to do, and I can do this in plain English, plain language, is at Cortana Scheduler here. Another feature that will be coming out is for you to name or rename Cortana Scheduler. So you could say your company's name scheduler, which will work as well. All you need to do is mention it in the email. You'll notice that it automatically adds Cortana Scheduler up on top. And let's type in plain English. Can you please schedule a meeting next week, Monday or Tuesday for an hour? Just by typing that in, if I were to send this out to both David as well as my Gmail, Cortana will look at their schedulers once, or their calendar once the email is in their inbox, create the meeting, put the Teams link in automatically, and then send it back to me and say, this has been booked. That simple, that easy. You don't have to do anything else other than mention Cortana Scheduler and talk to it in plain English. If you're a fan of AI, hopefully you'll realize how powerful this tool can be, how much time it can save you in the end rather than waiting for responses. I do want to throw out there that there is an additional license that is now required to use this in its fullest form. There are trials that we can put into place as well. So if you just want to do a pilot program, see if it is a tool that will work for you, we can do that as well. But I find this absolutely easy to use. And this is what I'm using for my day-to-day meetings, actually. So Find Time, I still love you. It's still there when you need it. But Cortana Scheduler is going to be that one step above and next if you're looking for a powerful poll creation tool. Last but not least, within Outlook, because wait, there's always more, I'm going to close out of my new email here. And let's go back to just my Outlook desktop. When you're using the new Outlook desktop, you'll notice that you can put a couple of tools here directly within Outlook. So you can see your people, your calendar. Those are pretty usual. You've probably used those in the past. But on top of that, we can even open up applications like To Do. Or if I were to click on the three dots here and go to Tasks, I can now create a task planner, a task board for myself that lets me make sure I'm on top of everything that I need to get done during the day. So what I could do is just add in a new task. I could go to my task, create a new one here. And by putting it in my Outlook desktop, it's not just putting it in Outlook. It's also putting it within my task, within my to-do, within office.com. So if I were to go to office.com, click on the waffle, the 9 circles, whatever you want to call it. And if I were to go to my to-do, go to my tasks, I will also see them here. So rather than having that sticky note that you're probably used to, or opening up a random notepad on your device and writing everything you need to get done during the day, those are things of the past. Built in to all of your Office products here is now going to be those to-do or tasks. As you create them, it will carry with you to all of your other applications. So if you're working in Outlook, someone sends you an email, you can create a new task. You could then go to all of your to-dos, see those tasks, check them off when you get it done. You get a nice little beautiful ping once it's done. You can be proud of yourself. And now it's going to carry through with you to all of your other applications. Carrying that even forward, another application within the Microsoft world that you may be familiar with is Planner. So when I go to my test planner here, if I were to, let's go back to my to-dos here, I'm going to uncheck that SO234234 is not done. If I were to go back to my planner here, give it a quick refresh, what you'll see is the tasks that you created in Outlook, which showed up in To-Do, are now showing up in Planner as well. So hopefully you can see here that the Office, the Outlook applications, Microsoft applications as a whole are all connected to each other, speaking to each other, and look at that. The task is right back here. If I click on the check mark, close it here, give this page a refresh, it will close it here. And if I had it as a task or a to-do here in Outlook, it would show up here as well. The point that I'm trying to show you is that we know that Microsoft, by putting files in OneDrive, putting files in SharePoint, no matter where we go, it's the same file. The same thing is done for tasks. The same thing is done for anything that you might put into Outlook. Across all of the other applications, it'll be updated as well, knowing that you know what you've completed, what you have left to do. And now it really gives you the flexibility that whatever app you prefer to use, whether that is the Outlook desktop, whether that is Outlook Online, whether you're in Planner every single day or Teams, across the board, everything is now updating for you. And that is the benefit, that is the goal of the cloud, having everything in one place, the source of truth, as I like to call it, and no matter where you go, it's showing you the same thing. Speaking of Outlook, speaking of creating meetings, another often overlooked application I see within the Microsoft world is Microsoft Bookings. So Bookings is a really powerful tool if you need a way to send a link out to clients, a link out to customers, vendors, anybody that you might be working with on a day-to-day basis. What you can do is you can create a Bookings calendar. Now, this is just my demo one that I have here. To get to Bookings, all you need to do is click on the waffle or the 9 circles in the upper left, and you will be able to see the bookings here. By clicking on the bookings, you're going to log in with your Microsoft account. And once you get here, you can create a new booking calendar for yourself. You can create it for your entire team, maybe even both of them. To show you how that might look is I'm going to go to my bookings page here. You can customize it with colors. You can go ahead and choose scheduling policies when you're available to be booked. And how I often see bookings used is by creating this calendar, you can create your services. Now, in this case, we have a 30-minute session, we have a 2-hour session, we have a 1-hour session. Maybe you want a 15-minute, maybe you want a 3-hour session. You can do all of that within bookings. Once someone were to go to your booking link, which I'm just going to copy here in my demo, paste, and show you what that looks like. Once you get to the booking, you can see someone selects it. They can choose a staff. Now, this is just my demo, so I chose myself. And it's pulling in my Outlook calendar automatically for someone to know when I'm free, when I'm available. So think of it as if you're sending out a lot of emails to external users, rather than waiting for them to reply to that email, within your signature, maybe on the bottom of every email, you can link this booking calendar. So if you want them to set up a meeting on your calendar, they can go, they can see when you're free, they can choose that specific time, add their name, add their email. So you're collecting information on those users as well. You can make them add in notes, or you can even add in a custom field. So for example, if you want to put in, how did you hear about us? Because you want to know if they're contacting you from seeing you on social media, seeing you in a newspaper, on the radio, on TV. You can create all of these forms to collect that information, put it into Microsoft, which then you can do thousands of things with it. And it's automatically pulling in your schedule. So if you didn't like the find time that I showed you before, if you don't want to be sending out your own meetings through Cortana Scheduler, create a bookings calendar, send out the link here, and then they can go to your calendar, they can find a time. The only potential downside to using bookings is that it's really one person creating it. That one person will, whoever's filling it out, will receive the team's invite for that time, and then they have to forward it on if they want more people to join. So bookings is really for that one-on-one interaction. You can forward the bookings meeting if you want to, but really if you're looking to have 10 people join a meeting, maybe you want to use Find Time. Maybe you want to use a Cortana Scheduler if that's a tool that you have available to you. So mix and match, whatever makes your workload a little bit easier, a little bit more streamlined. That's the way that I would definitely go down. But very powerful tool. We can help you build these. You can create one for yourself to put in your signature. You can create one for your team, for example. I've also seen bookings used for a sales team. So when you send out your first initial email blast, you put the link in there, and then they can book it with whoever's on your staff has free time, brand it, put in your logo. And on top of that, you can even charge for services. So if you have a Square account, if you have PayPal, you could even say that booking this 2-hour session costs you $50 US. You can do that, get the money before they even book it. I don't see that feature being used too much at the moment, but that is something just to think about if that would really fit your type of business model that you have. There's also a new bookings view as well, which shows you that Microsoft is putting a lot of resources, money, effort into this tool. So it's not going to go away. Create your calendars, knowing comfortably that it's going to stay here. You set it up once, and then you reap the benefits. All right, I know we're coming up on our time here. 30 minutes is never enough, but hopefully you got an idea of some of the tools, features, functionalities within an everyday tool that we use like Outlook Desktop. Really, it'll help you take your business up to the next notch. Use those features, those tools that are included with your licensing, whether that's Find Time, Cortana Scheduler, Tasks, which are connected to Planner, and then bookings on top. And I will say we're still just scratching the surface of all of the Microsoft 365 tools out there. So I'm sure we'll have more calls coming up in the future, but hopefully this is just getting those gears turning in your mind, how you can use some of those tools that you might already have available to you.
That was great. I did just on the Cortana scheduler. That was I've heard that feature was out there, and I actually hadn't seen that in use until you just showed that there, which is great. And I guess my question is that available out of the box kind of with everybody, or is it a feature you have to add in?
Great question. And it is a feature you need to add in, and it does require a specific license assigned to users that are going to be using Cortana Scheduler. So
Okay.
if you have 100 employees within your organization, maybe you have 5 people that are really in charge of creating meetings for the executive team or are sending out a lot of sales meetings, you could just assign those licenses to those 5 users, keeping the cost down, but still giving them that availability. Once the license is in place, there really isn't too much setup that needs to be done. You just want to make sure that they have the license. And Microsoft is giving trials for this Cortana scheduler because it is so new. And now, depending on your tenant, that could be 30 or 60 days, but it might be something that you want to look at. Just put it as a pilot, test it out, see if that will save you time, and then you can decide who gets that license.
And just one last one. I looked on my own Outlook, which is, I believe, up to date, and it's missing the new meeting poll. Is there an easy way to add that in? I know you said there might be a place to go.
Yeah, so if my Outlook actually wants to behave for me today, which I doubt it will, so don't you know it? Don't you always love it? So if you're looking for apps, now you can see I have things like DocuSign. There is a whole page of apps that you can always add in to Outlook Desktop. Generally, it is going to each person's individual Outlook, pushing that in if you're not connected to something like Microsoft Intune, Endpoint Manager, a mobile device manager type of software. So what we would just want to do is we can go to our file, we can go to our Office apps, and then we can just go ahead and add it in there.
There we go.
But it is a really powerful tool if it's something that you're looking for. And it's just like if we were to add in something like Forms from Microsoft Forms, you can do a quick poll through Forms as well. These are already in the back end of Outlook. We just need to select it so it appears on your taskbar up on top. And look at that. Within a click, I created Forms, and I think we went through Forms in one of our previous calls of creating a quick, easy information gathering. We use Dynamics as well, so you'll see Dynamics here. And then even something as simple as insights, which is automatically in the back of all of your profiles, maybe telling you to book more focus time. Maybe you have too many meetings. If you have outstanding tasks, like we mentioned, it's now going to pull up all of those things that you're doing across the Microsoft network to try and highlight how you can save time, how you can be more productive during your day.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And Preston, I'm assuming there's no other questions.
I do have one other question.
Oh.
Rafe, could you talk about and show what delegate access is?
Can you tell me a little bit more about what you mean by delegate access?
Well, that's all the questions said. I know a little bit about it. I know it's giving permission to your email to other users in your group, so maybe an administrative assistant.
Yes, so there's a couple of different ways that you can give access to emails within Microsoft 365. One of the easiest, or what I would say is one of the best ways to do it, is it does require admin control. And that makes perfect sense because you don't want people to just be able to request or see all of your emails without you knowing about it. So an easy way to do that is if we were to go to the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, I'm just going to find my account here to use, my demo account here to use as a test. And if we were to go to Mail, for example, here's where you're going to see those mailbox permissions. So if you want to give someone read and manage permissions, if you want to give someone send as permissions, send on behalf, you can do this through the Microsoft 365 admin portal. If you're really looking for something along the lines of calendars, you are able to share your calendars with other users within your organization, or they can even request read access to your calendar and then you can approve it. So there's a couple different ways to do it. Generally, if someone needs access to your emails, I would give them read and manage permissions. You most likely don't want to give them send as because you don't want someone impersonating you, sending it out for you. And then if you really don't want them to see your emails, you could just go to your calendar, share your calendar here with someone, and give them read access only to it so they're not actually building things on there.
Great.
The final thing that I'll throw in there is maybe if you don't want to give someone access to your email, to your direct calendar, another way to kind of circumvent that is to create a shared mailbox that both you and the other users have access to. So you have your own separate calendar, you have your own separate inbox that you can then use to respond to. That works just as well if you don't want to give them read access to see all of your emails. Mm-hmm.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. And if you have any questions on that, if you're not sure really how to give access, the best way to do it, we can always talk through it, Preston, and then figure out the best way to really give the permissions without giving them too much, which is always the least privilege, right?
Yep.
Right.
Well, Ray, thank you very much. This was, as always, fantastic, and I really appreciate you sharing your knowledge and spending the time with us. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, and I look forward to the next call that we'll have.
You got it. And and then on screen, thank you, Preston, is if you do have any questions, you need help deploying, our information is right on screen here. Certainly feel free to reach out. We're always happy to help. And we would engage in really any of the topics we've talked about over the last few weeks. That's it.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Enjoy your day.